Roberto, welcome back to the show, man.
Ta-da!
It's so funny. So we were talking last night. I've known you for about 6 years now.
2019.
Yeah, so 6 years now, and I think about how our relationship has evolved over time. Where I didn't like you at first.
He
If we're
hated
being
me.
honest, I didn't like you, and then you grew on me like a zit, right? So as you grew on me, I was like, I can own this. Not like a zit. Not like.
Did you try to pop me and get rid of me?
And so I ended up hiring you as my coach in what was the rock bottom moment of my entrepreneurial journey at this point. 2020, and I've told this story, I'm sure, on the podcast before, but now I'm going to relate it to you. 2020, I lost 75% of my income overnight. And I was like, I need to do something or I need to get a job. First things first, I'm fortunate enough to have an incredible wife, then girlfriend at the time, who was like, you don't need to get a job. You can figure this out, right? There's great support in my household. I was like, okay, I need to find somebody to help me do this. And I talked to a number of coaches, got on a call with you, and you get on the call and you're like, well, what do you want to do? And I literally looked at him and I go, I just want to get paid to be me. And he was the first person who didn't laugh when I said it. He's like, great, let's figure a way to do that. And then was able to rebuild the income over the next 6 months. And then really kind of start to formulate, and it put me in a position now where I have formulated my business to go, I don't work a ton. I essentially just get paid to be me and show up and be a part of something. And it's obviously a beautiful system. And so you're the guy who helped me create that. And that's why I love that you're here to pour into the group, pour into the podcast, and a special announcement. You're actually one of the keynote speakers in April at Growth Now Summit Live.
Ta-da.
So the next announcement's official as of the release of this podcast that he will be keynoting. And it's funny because Mike Kim spoke last year, and I always wanted Mike to speak, but he only spoke on branding. And I was like, this talk doesn't work for my event. And then he started to kind of shift his messaging and talk a little bit more about his personal journey and struggles and all that stuff. And I always wanted you to speak, but you always talked business. And I was like, you and I had a conversation not that long ago. And you're like, I'm writing this book. Take it from there. What is this book all about? What is this shift for you? And how is that going to impact so many people?
So the book is called The Willingness Factor. And it is around this entire word, which is really such a simple word, but is one of the most complicated words as I began to study it and live it. Willingness. It sounds very simple. To be willing to do something is, according to the dictionary, to have an active participation in something. So it's like, how many people actually have an active participation in their life? That's a fun question. Let's just jot this down. And then I started talking to people. I was like, well, what does willingness mean to you? They're like, I don't know. I don't use that word. Only coaches and therapists use that word. But it's kind of like the white car, right? You buy the white car, and then everywhere you go, you see a white car. So although everybody's saying, I don't use that word, I don't do that, I don't live that, it's just like, well, I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to do that. But it's like they just say it just kind of haphazardly. Well, so then I started digging. I was like, well, what is another way to say this? I didn't find another way, by the way. But as I did more research, I found that the opposite of willingness is actually reluctance. And the definition of reluctance is an unwillingness. So I was like, well, we either have active participation in life or unwilling to participate in your life. It's like, okay, well, this is fascinating. So for the book, the definition that I wrote through the lens from, and I'm coaching from the lens of with my clients, is willingness is the difference between where you're at and where you say you want to be. And that everything between those two things is willingness, and that willingness isn't easy. It's not going to scream at you. It's actually quite the opposite. It's very soft. It's very quiet. It's those moments where you stop and say like, hey, do I really want to do that? And it's just like, well, this is all the scary shit that could happen. And it's just like, okay, I just won't do that. And so everything we really want is on the other side of willingness. We just get to make this choice that we're living through one discomfort over the other, because even here, right? Like this, I said Warren, Justin just took y'all, not Warren, Justin just took y'all through this visualization process, right? And y'all had the opportunity to talk about this future self and go through this future self. And each of you had a message from that future self. That's great. But the real fun's going to be when it's just like when you leave here, it's like, let's go do that. Well, that's going to be hard. Oh, I might have to give up that. I might have to give up that. And then we subconsciously don't realize that we're actually choosing one discomfort over the other. You're choosing the discomfort of where you're at versus the discomfort to go to where you say you want to be, but actually not because of that discomfort. Usually it's because of the other side of this, which is you might have to realize it might not work again. I might fail again. I might not make money again. Somebody might scam me out of this again. And so the unwillingness part actually isn't the journey. It's that we fear the thing on the other side. So it's easier to sit in the discomfort of where we're at versus we might have to feel guilt or shame later.
Yeah. So how do we push through that discomfort? Like you and I were talking about this, and we talked about that moment where I was like, I just want to get paid to be me. And I jokingly say, I think I was too dumb to realize that that's not normal. Like, it was just like, I just showed up and like, this is what I want. So let me try and figure it out. Like, how can you push through that discomfort? Like, I just knew I didn't want to go back to a corporate job.
Yeah. So I don't think it's always a push. And I think that as I get deeper into this work, I look into my life, I look into the experiences, like some of the crazy stuff that Warren and I have done, that sometimes it's making a decision that it's not always a push. In most religions, people speak about faith, and they speak about faith is like the unseen, the unknown. And, that you don't always like, there's a staircase coming up into where we're at right now. If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see the staircase, but just picture a staircase. There's one there. And if it's like pitch black, like dark, middle of the night, no lights outside, like, there's a staircase there. You're not saying, where's the top of the staircase? You just like, you move your foot. You might like reach down to the ground, try to touch. You're just like, okay, where's the first step? Because if I find the first step, even if it's dark, I can take the next step and then the next one. But most people are trying to figure out how to get to the end of the journey and haven't even figured out how to have enough faith in the darkness or the unknown or the uncertainty to even just say, where's the first step? I don't even have to jump on the first step. I just have to find it. And I think like that's the first part, is not even pushing, just realizing here's where the start is.
Yeah.
And then I can go the next step. And I think an example of that is, you and I were talking last year. I told you, Warren and I were at a point where our lease was up. And we loved where we lived, but not enough to live there for another year and a half or so. And so we're just like, what if we just sell everything? Keep a few things, get a storage unit, put everything in a storage unit, and just travel. That's how it started. Then we're like, well, travel where? Notice the first decision was, what if we choose not to renew the lease? It wasn't travel the world. It wasn't go see it. It was like, what if we just choose not to live here anymore? Then what? And so I think that people look for like this jumbotron to show up, like you're in the middle of a stadium and be like, this is it. This is the sign. And this was like, no, this is why I say, like, I believe willingness is much more subtle and much softer. It starts with the first decision. You don't have to know all of them.
Yeah. I follow this Instagram account called Uberfacts. If you don't follow it, go follow it. It's incredible. They posted just the other day that walking is actually just micro falling. So like, you're catching yourself from falling with every step that you take. And like, I immediately, as my entrepreneurial brain kicks in, I'm like, well, is there a lesson here? And like, when we think about moving forward, it is a lot of times just small failures, but catching yourself and adjusting, right? Very similar to walking. So like, you work with a lot of individuals who are high net worth, do very, very well. Everything from small $60 a month memberships up to high price coaching, right? What sets them apart from the people that are trying to scrap little pieces together to pay the bills versus, I have such an abundance, I have to buy real estate just to write it off on taxes?
How they treat themselves when something doesn't go as they planned. I think, a lot of people, I think all of us can say we've done something that didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, you're not doing enough, so go do something. But we all have something that didn't go as planned. We didn't make the money, it failed, transaction didn't go through, whatever. Something didn't go as planned. And then when that happens, how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. I think so many people go straight to, should have known that was a stupid idea. Why the fuck did I ever think I could do that? Like, and we just like go down the pity party. And it's just like, if you can learn to have conversations with yourself and treat yourself like you do when you're really good at something, even in failure, even when things don't like, it doesn't even have to be failure, just didn't go the way that you wanted to, and not judge yourself as much, things become much simpler. And I think that that is what I see is I see people make mistakes. So whether it's a $9 mistake or a multi-million-dollar mistake, they're just like, great, won't do that again. Okay, like what's next? And it's just this fast, like readjustment, like nothing has to be wrong with them because something didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think, you know, I talked a little bit about how when I first got here, the first song I heard on Bourbon Street was the saxophone I was playing, I Did It My Way, by Frank Sinatra. And that song, like I literally will just, when I am a little down on myself, like I'm like beating myself up, things didn't go my way, I play that song. I go, no, it's going exactly the way it's supposed to be going. You know, and I often think about how if I didn't make those mistakes, I wouldn't have been able to create the next thing, right? If everything didn't fall apart in 2020 because of COVID, where would I be now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like an interesting kind of dichotomy to be like, okay, next mistake. Also, on the flip side, we talk about doing it our own way. There's a friend of yours who's been on the podcast. She actually talked to our mastermind, Rachel Miller, who put everything she had into, she wanted to make $1 million in a day in her business. It almost killed her. And she made the $1 million in a day. She's like, it was the biggest mistake I ever made. Right. And so why were you trying to make that $1 million in a day? She goes, because I wanted to compete with the big boys. It was somebody else's way that she almost killed herself for. She didn't need to make $1 million in a day. She was doing just fine otherwise. Right. And so like, how do you create your own path? Because my explanation of I was too dumb to realize otherwise, like how can you learn from others, but step away and create your own vision? Because you've done that.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it comes down to figuring out what you want for you, not what you think other people want for you. Which is, it sounds simple to say, but it's actually some of the hardest work I've ever done.
Yeah.
It's like, who do I want to be if I don't have a husband, if I like, if my mom wouldn't judge it, if my sister wouldn't judge it, if my niece wouldn't judge it, if Justin wouldn't judge it, if so-and-so and so, like, who do I just want to be because it's me? And then understanding that whoever you are, wherever you're at is already enough. I think people look at enoughness. It's like, when I get here, I'll be enough. It's like, no, like just by the fact that you're a human being and you're living, you're already enough. Right?
Yeah.
Now, what version of that do you want to be? So I think the very first thing is to figure out what you want to be for you, and not necessarily so much. And actually, another layer of that, right, is even because somebody told you you had to be that. Like there's this plant. It's really not cute at all.
Real.
It's not real. It's not real. Like it's like dusty and stuff. But it's just like, okay, Justin, here you go. Here's a present. It's like this tree. Obviously, if you're listening to the audio, you can't like see that, but I just handed him a pot with a plant, and not that plant, because it was the audio version, so I had to clarify. But it's give us like, here you go. Here's a present, right? And so oftentimes people give us things. We're coming up on the holidays. Like people are going to give you things and you're going to look at it and be like, oh, great. That's great. Thank you. And then as soon as they turn around and be like, I can't believe they gave me this shit. What am I going to do with this? And you're going to do one of four things, and maybe three. I don't know, because I just made up the number 4. You're going to throw it away. You're going to re-gift it to somebody. You're going to put it in a closet that one day will get re-gifted to somebody, or you're going to sit there and every time you look at this thing sitting on your table, be like, I can't believe they gave you that piece of shit. I say that because people do that with your life. They will say, you're never going to succeed. You're never going to make any money. You'll never this, you'll never this, you'll never this. And they will choose to put their belief and their story on you and give it to you as a gift. But yet for some reason, we feel we need to hold on to that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, because, you know, I think a lot of times I talk about like limiting beliefs and where they come from, right? And so a lot of times it is that one person who says this about you. And sometimes they do it by accident,
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about the evil individuals that we come across in this world who they want to see you fail. But like, sometimes it happens by accident. Like, you could be a child and your parents literally go, oh, that's Naveed, he's just shy. And Naveed will carry that with him for the rest of his life, but the parents were trying to protect you, right? And so like, we have to decide whether we're going to keep this or let it go, right? And letting go can be scary because we've lived all these things, right? I look at your story. At one point, you were on food stamps and trying to figure it out. And then you started to get in rooms. And then you were able to, have the fortune of learning from people like Brendan Burchard for free, which is a wild story in and of itself.
That's a crazy story.
But, as we look at that, like, how did you begin to rewrite the narrative, growing up not wealthy, ending up as an adult on food stamps, trying to figure it out? How did you rewrite your narrative? Because so many people allow themselves to stay in that place.
Yeah. So I think that there's a narrative can serve us and disserve us at the same time. And it's finding the piece, if you want, that serves you. So like I was writing the book, there's this story at the beginning I talk about, that I grew up in a family of doers. And so to me, I thought success was, you show up, you work, you get a result. You get a result. Next thing, you show up, you work, you get a result. You show up, you work. And so to me, it was like, this is success. And that's partially true. And so like the part of identity was like, I have an amazing work ethic because of that. And I am so grateful for that. What I did not realize is that there's another part of that story that appeared in my life. And I'm not saying that this showed up in my family member's life, but mine, which was, you do, you work, you show up, you get a result, and then people like you. You do, you work, you show up, result, and then people believe A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
That's how you get the gold star. You show up, you volunteer, you're the first to do whatever. You do this, you do this. And then because of your doing actually becomes overperforming and overgiving and people pleasing, which then of course you can't get where you want to be, because then you're tying to what you want to be to how other people respond to what you do. So it's almost like we get to look at the different identities that we hold. We all hold these different identities, right? Like whether it's son, mother, daughter, like, Latin, like black, white, like whatever religious beliefs, gender identities, gender expressions. We all have these identities, and some of them serve us very well and some of them don't. And so we get to choose like which identities we get to live with at any given moment, and also release certain ones and thank them for their service for where they got us today. And so I think that like that's a big part of this is, where do I want to be? What parts of this still serve me? And what pieces we thank them for their service? And I know that sounds kind of woo-woo, but like we thank them for their service and release them.
Yeah.
I don't believe, and if there's a therapist here like listening, please feel free to reach out to me, because I would love to have this conversation. I am not a therapist. I am not an attorney. I'm none of those things. I don't play them on TV. And that's
only on podcasts.
Right. Right. Oh, no, not even that, because y'all like, I have a GED. I didn't even finish high school, y'all. So like, that was way too much school. I believe that like we can learn so much from our trauma. I also believe that growth causes discomfort and pain sometimes, and that all not discomfort is trauma. And I think that a lot of social media makes us believe it's like, oh, I hit my finger, traumatic event.
Yeah.
It might be painful. Growth is often discomforting, but that does not mean it's all trauma. And so I think that we also get to become comfortable with discomfort and knowing which ones we're choosing. And like I said, if there's a therapist, I would love to hash this out with somebody, because this is just my own lived experience.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And we talked about this at lunch yesterday. And it was the first time I heard like, no, that protected you to a certain point.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. It got you to where you need to be, but at some point you have to let that go in order to reach that next phase, which I absolutely loved. And I think it's some massive key takeaways there, because are you at a place now where I have to release that? Because there's always going to come a time. And I feel like it shows up in your world when everything starts to crumble a little bit. Like everything's going really, really well. And then all of a sudden, what's going on? I'm losing clients. I'm doing this. Everything's falling apart. I can't catch it. those are the moments where you go, what do I need to release?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things I'm thinking or believing and whatever? Now, there's another thing that you said at lunch, and I have it in my pocket.
Uh-oh.
I think.
Oh, the drawing.
Yeah. So who, I'll ask the room, who has heard the term being in flow? It was actually I said it during our visualization practice. So being in flow. I've heard it 10,000 times. I go, yeah, I love when I'm in flow. And then I went, I have no clue what that means. I have no clue what being in flow actually meant. I got the concept, but I didn't know. So Roberto, who, by the way, give credit where credit's due, somebody taught him this.
Yes, Chris Crabtree taught me that.
Chris Crabtree.
So y'all are gonna find him online.
He drew he drew a little graph, and I'll explain it to people who can't see it, because you definitely can't see it even if you're watching the video. But it's essentially a graph chart thing. And on the left hand side, it's skill. So you have no skill or you have a ton of skill. And on the bottom is knowledge. You have no knowledge or you have a ton of knowledge. If you're in a moment where you have not enough, explain it to me.
Which one are we looking at?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. You have a skill, but you don't have the knowledge. Yes.
Yeah. So you have a skill, but you don't have the knowledge on how to execute. That creates anxiety, right? Like I have all this anxiety. If you have all the knowledge and then not the skill, you're bored. You're bored. It's boredom. Okay. When you're perfectly going, as you continue to get more knowledge and you get more skill, being in flow is operating in the middle, right? So like you're not working anxious because you got too much going on, right? And I looked at it from a standpoint of like, okay, I have the knowledge that I can do all of these live events, right? Now, if I'm not selling enough if people aren't buying tickets, I start to get anxious. I start to go, I don't have the skill, right? Like, oh my God, I don't have enough skill. I need to focus on that a little bit more. And it was the first time I had a visualization or a visual of what flow meant. And now what that does for me is I go, okay, why am I feeling anxious right now? Oh, I don't have enough skill. How do I figure that piece out? And then it puts me right back into flow, right? The idea of flow to me was always sounded really good. And I'm sure I've been there a lot, but I didn't actually know what it meant until this moment. And I was like, oh, if I'm bored, what does that mean? It means I got to add more, right? And this all started with the conversation where I was like, what do you do when you get bored, right? Like what's next kind of thing. And that's when you have to add more. And it's a fascinating thing to look at. But that was something that kind of changed my mind, or changed my view on what flow meant. But what's the importance of being in flow?
I wish I had a sexy answer for this. I don't. I would say for me, when I'm in flow, things just feel easy.
Mm-hmm.
They're simple. It is the place where I know that I'm like this graph shows. Like I said, Chris Crabtree showed this to me because I was telling him, just like, actually, I'll tell you the story of what made him show me this, and I think that maybe we'll get to the answer of what you asked. Is he was like, well, why aren't you selling this one thing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you just write the emails and then you send it and then people buy it. And he's just like, oh, that's it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you just have such a belief that if you create something and you write the emails and you send the email that people will buy it, that it's boring for you now. It's no longer a challenge to get clients. And I was like, I didn't say that. He was like, no, that's exactly what you said. You said that if I write the sales page and I write the emails and I send it out, people will buy it. So I can wait to send it out because I already know people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
You're bored. So how do we, I was just like, well, damn, when you put it that way.
Yeah. And when something's boring to you, you don't want to do more of it.
Right. And so I think the importance of being in flow. So there we go. So I think the importance of being flow, right, is that you're finding different capacities, different skill sets, different knowledge that you had. And it can become very easy in life. It can be very easy in a relationship and a marriage to do what has always worked and then wonder why there's not a different result. Like you get lazy, you get complacent. It can be easy in a business to be like, I already know this thing's going to sell. So just keep selling it because people will keep buying it. I mean, that was me with all of our sponsorship courses for so long.
Yeah.
Until one day I was on the phone with Justin. I called him after I'd made the decision. I was like, guess what? I'm burning it all down. Everything, burning it all down. And he's like, all of it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's going to happen? I have no idea.
It worked out.
It worked out. It's worked out amazing. But there was, to the flip side of this, there was a lot of anxiety once I made the decision, because it was like, I have the knowledge of how to create things. I have the knowledge of how to sell things, but do I have the skill to sell this thing that I've never sold before?
Yeah.
Do I have, then back to the knowledge, right? Do I have the knowledge to make money in a way that I've never made money before? The anxiety was like, it was a Doechii song. Like, it was all the way up here. Like, it was a full-on encore of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I just had to keep reminding myself, okay, I don't have to be the one with the skill. I can find people.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the one with all the knowledge. I can find people. And that's what let me start to live in flow, because I think in flow is where you also get to figure out, this is going really good. So what are the areas that aren't serving me? What relationship do I need to let go of? What identity do I need to let go of? What product in the business do I need to let go of? What friendship do I need to let go of? And when we're in a space of just moving, it's almost like, I'm making this sound easy and it's not, y'all. Okay. It's just like, but it just becomes simpler when you're in a place where you just know you're moving in the right direction, even when you don't know where it's fucking going, y'all.
Yeah.
You just know, like, this is like, it's like Finding Nemo, right? Like, they get in the little thing and they're just like, the Pacific whatever channel, I don't know what it's called, y'all. We just know they end up at whatever way, and with the girl with the braces. But the turtles just know. 42 wallaby ways. See, there y'all go. See? So they just know, right? The turtle just knows. We just get in the thing and we just go.
Yeah.
No question about it, right? The sea turtles are in there just living their best life. And meanwhile, Dory's lost as fuck.
Yeah.
But like, they just know we get in this thing and we just get there. And to me, I think like, that's why flow is so important, is because you're there. You're just like, I know I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't know how fast I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. But then it gives a perspective of like, oh, these things aren't helping me stay there. So what can be released?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Like, we talked about how, I was so tired of telling people what microphone to buy. And I got to a point where people were paying me $7,500 for 4 phone calls where I told them how to buy a microphone, like literally what you could Google, buy a microphone, how to record a podcast, how to whatever. I was bored. I was like, I'm done doing this. Just buy whatever microphone you want. Like, especially now, like, I was just like, what are you doing? Stop worrying about this. And I don't want to be the real estate guy. You know what I mean? Like, you get to a place where you become such an expert that it becomes so boring that it doesn't matter how much money somebody's willing to pay you. You don't want to do it. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. So
he's an end person.
This is a but and. So
we'll get there.
A friend of mine, we were in Mexico a few years ago. As we released things, because I had told them I was going to drop all this stuff, she was like, are you doing what I did with fitness? And I said, what do you mean? Because I'm like, how do you relate teaching sponsorship to fitness? Like, these are 2 different things, friend. And she said, are you running from the thing that gives you credibility? Meaning, this is the way that I took it, right? This is my version of how I took what this person told me. How can you release something and also acknowledge all of the credibility that it gives you and leverage that credibility from the next thing, versus being like, how do I distance myself from this shit so far that nobody knows it even exists?
Yeah.
But it's just like, she was like, no, it's just like, think about it. Like, the reason you know business so well is because of sponsorship. Because in sponsorship, you had to figure out how all the brands work together. You had to package. So offer creation, pricing, relationship management, project management, logistical flow. So like, you're being like, oh, sponsorship, I'm done with it. But there's all these skill sets that you have that made it, that you could broker all those sponsorship deals and then teach it. Why are you running from the thing that gives you credibility versus leveraging it? And again, just that moment also was one of those things that was just like, oh yeah, how many of us just like take everything, throw it in the dumpster, light it on fire, and just like, bye, peace out, off to the next thing, versus realizing again, the pieces of those previous experiences, identities, everything that brought you to like listening to this podcast today are what got you here. And they can take you where you're going next without needing to be in the spotlight. We don't throw out skill sets. because like they made us who we are. They're just a different part of the identity now. They don't have the spotlight on them anymore.
No, I love that. So I want to open up to some of the members here that are here. If they have any questions, I just ask that you keep it clear and concise, and then I'm going to repeat the question, and then he'll answer it.
So I have a question. You've been talking about flow, and when someone is in that flow state, and then all of a sudden they can feel like they're an imposter because they've been building. Now they're in this flow state, everything's going well, and you stop doing the things that got you there. So how do you continue to be in that flow state without feeling like you're an imposter and now things are too easy?
So how do you continue to stay in the flow state without feeling like an imposter? By the way, that question was from Michelle Rogers, a former guest on the show.
Ta-da. Go listen to episode number. I don't know.
I don't know either. 5 something.
So I think the first part of this is like, I have not experienced being able to be in flow 24 hours a day. I think that that's a lie. So I think what we can do is we can create intentionality with times of flow, right? So it's like, if I know I'm really, really good at this thing I live over here, like we can schedule that, right? And sometimes you want to be in flow longer. Sometimes you want to be a short. And so like I would schedule. I think that that's part of it, right? When it comes to an actual task, is being intentional about those moments. It is a dopamine high. Like, hello, we all love dopamine. It's just like, man, this is like when everything comes together perfectly. And like I said, the intentionality part of that is that. It's like just because like all of, that's not a good example. Y'all, I've gotten so good at editing myself.
That one's not good.
But also, but that's also a good example, right? It's like, I just learned I just say what I say. And even if I'm going to edit, I course correct out loud, because I also don't want people to think like, oh, wow, he just like has all these media sound bites in his head. It's like, no, I've just learned to process really fast. And as I'm processing, also be able to stop and say like, does this actually serve the purpose of it versus just saying something? So you're gonna feel like an imposter. You're gonna feel like things aren't working out. You're gonna feel like a piece of crap sometimes. And that's the good news. I know somebody's out like listening to this and being like, what the fuck is he saying right now? Like, but it's actually good news. And it's good news because like you can't turn, I was sharing this with Justin yesterday, like we want all the good. We want love. We want happiness. We want flow. And we want to like turn the volume on all that stuff up like super, super, super high. But we can't turn the volume up on that without also, just because of hello, equalization. Like you can't turn all the bass up in an equalizer, because then I like talking about sound.
Oh, you were never in my 95 Ford Mustang, buddy. We turned that bass all the way up.
No, but what I mean is, right, like you can turn it all the way up, right? But then what do you lose? You're losing the mids, you're losing the trebles, you're losing the experience of what the music should be. And so if we're trying to always live in this dopamine of flow, then we are going to feel more of the pain. We are going to feel more of the unhappiness. We are going to feel more of these other things. Like you cannot numb pain without numbing love. You cannot numb anger without numbing connection and belonging. And so I think it's just important to, I just saw Mark's face. Mark just thought of something over there, but it's just like, it's part of the package. But I think that we become friends with it, right? And like I was telling Justin yesterday, like there's still parts of things will happen in life. And there's a part of me, like so do any of y'all ever have negative thoughts and like negative emotions come into your head ever?
No.
Right? Okay. So liar. So I've literally named that part of my brain. Y'all ever seen the movie Child's Play?
Chucky? You know Chucky?
I don't watch the movie.
Okay, so I don't watch the movies either, but literally I gave that part of my brain like this visualization, Chucky. And so whenever it's you're not good enough, do you know what the fuck people think about you? Do you think this? Like literally, I'm just like, okay, Chucky, look, I'm so glad you're here with your knives. Thank you for coming with a message, because I really do believe you're here to protect me. What do you want me to learn from this? what do you want me to learn from this? And then I let him say whatever he needed to say. Obviously, I realize I'm talking to myself, y'all. But I had to make it seem so far out that I could make it logical. And then I'm just like, okay, good. Thank you. You know what? We're safe. We're safe. Can you just please go over there to the corner, sharpen your knives? We're safe. And then the next time when you think something's up, just come let me know. So I just don't expect that I'm not going to feel like crap. When it shows up, I'm just like, okay, what is this here to teach me? How is this trying to keep me safe? And then eventually what will happen is you'll go do something and the voice won't happen. You're going to be like, oh, I surely thought you were going to pop up right now. Like, and then it's like, okay, that was growth. And then you'll go do something. You'll hit another level of discomfort, another whatever. And then it'll pop up. And it'll be like, oh, good. Right on time. I already knew you were going to be here. And so it sounds kind of silly, but it's just like, I already know that discomfort's going to happen. I already know the negative thoughts are going to happen. So I just ask, like, what are you here to teach me?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be popping up.
Yeah, and I'll say this: when you're talking about flow, it is not a 24-hour a day thing. It's like
that would be exhausting.
Like I look at it from a standpoint of like, when do you do your best work? So when I was single, my best work was between 6 and 8 p.m. I knew that when I would sit down at 6 p.m., just crush it. I moved in with my wife, and I'm like, I can't be 6 to 8 p.m. And I literally reprogrammed myself to be 7:30 to 10:30 in the morning. I get everything done that I need to get done. Because I know I can rework into my flow state at that time. And I think part of it's funny because like sometimes it's just a stupid thought in our head. Like part of that for me is because I used to work 8 to 5. And so like I'm starting before the 8 o'clock time. So this is on me time. Mm-hmm. Nobody's telling me to work. I'm telling me to work. Right. And so I can be in flow. That was the 6 to 8 p.m. because I wouldn't have been in the office at the time.
Yeah.
So find your window and just execute on it. But I want to wrap this interview. Guys, buy your tickets to Growth Now Summit Live. Yeah. GrowthNowSummit.com. Use the code podcast for 10% off. Come hang out with this guy. Look, stealing it from a guy we both know, but it's such a smart thing that he says. The magic happens in the margins. Get in the rooms, connect with people, build those relationships, and you can do that at Growth Now Summit Live. April 16th to the 17th, 2026.
I think I have the old dates in my head. Oh my God.